Well, thank you, everybody. And good morning. I would like to call the December 8th, 2022 APCD hearing board meeting to order. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll and swear any witnesses?
Thank you, Chair Rodriguez. Before I call the roll, I would like to note that all members are participating via teleconference. As such, all votes will be taken by roll call vote. In addition, it appears that all members are present during today's meeting. Member Gonzalez.
Present.
Members Powers.
Present.
Member Spencer.
Present.
Vice Chair.
Present.
Chair Rodriguez.
Present.
Thank you. I will ask that the following individuals please identify themselves for the record. Hearing Board Counsel.
Emily Helms, Senior Deputy County Counsel, Counsel for the Hearing Board.
Thank you. Air Pollution Control District staff.
William Jacks, Chief of Compliance for the district.
Mary Mahoney, Civil Actions Investigator for the district.
Scott Nestor, Civil Actions Investigator for the district.
Vera Tiagi, Counsel for the district.
Thank you. I will now swear in those that wish to participate and provide testimony on any item on today's agenda. This includes petitioners, respondents, and APCD staff. Please turn on your video at this time and raise your right hand for the swearing in. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in the matter before this hearing board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I know that we have a pretty full agenda in today's meeting. So before we begin our administrative items, Madam Clerk, have we received any requests from members of the public that wish to address the board today on non-agenda public communication?
Thank you, Chair Rodriguez. We have received no requests from members of the public to address the board under non-agenda public communication. However, if there are any members of the public on the teleconference line at this time wishing to address the board under non-agenda public communication, please raise your hand now by pressing *9 or using the raise hand feature on Zoom. Madam Chair, seeing no hands raised, there are no members of the public wishing to provide non-agenda public communication at this moment.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So we're going to go on through the agenda items as listed in the order as they appear. And so we're going to be moving definitely to the approval of minute orders for October 27th, 2022 of the San Diego Pollution Control District Hearing Board statement of proceedings. So have the members of the board had an opportunity to review, and are there any comments? Member Schlick?
Yes, I did have an opportunity to review and I didn't see any need for any corrections.
Excellent. Thank you for that feedback. I agree with you. Members not on the APCD. Do you have an opportunity to review, and do you have any comments?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we still wanted to recommend an edit be made. It's the same edit we had discussed previously. It's on page 15 of today's agenda. And it's the third paragraph. And it starts with the sentence petitioner and respondent. And our recommended edit would be that at the end of that sentence, we add a comma and then add where the board may also consider making decisions to modify the order.
Can you bring that up, Mary, because I know how prepared you actually are for all of these meetings. I would certainly like, to take a look at that. And now if this has been adopted prior to, so that would be fine. Let's actually take a look at 4527. Could you please, go specifically, yes, to that page and to the section that you indicate?
Yes, it's that paragraph, that third paragraph under action on the page being displayed by the clerk. That third paragraph begins, petitioner and respondent. And then it continues, are to return to the board with an update of the progress of the stipulated abatement order during a special meeting of the Air Pollution Control District Hearing Board, November 17th, 2022. And then our suggested edit is, comma, where the board may also consider making decisions to modify the order.
That was definitely discussed, during the meeting, per se. Let's see.
I'd love to get some counsel from Emily Helms, whether we can or can't update that. It's like we've already done all this, so.
Good morning. I had reviewed the meeting and I didn't see that language made it into the board's official motion. So I didn't see that in the motion, although there was some discussion that wasn't actually voted on.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking at my personal notes not here, and currently I do not see that on my personal notes as I speak. So definitely, Mary, I definitely hear the position of the APCD. If it was not part of the proceedings per se, definitely has no merit doing that. So I definitely would not accept, that would be my position, not to accept, the language that has been proposed.
Okay.
Any other comments from the members of the board as to the statement or the phrase actually that the APCD intends on suggested here for inclusion? No, I don't see it in my notes. Any other comments from the members of the board? Okay, that's so. If there are no comments, on that, and definitely, listening to hearing counsel from the hearing board, advice. That certainly I would like to move, for a motion to approve the proceedings, of October 27, 2022. Do I get a motion for approval? Vice Chair Schlick, moved. Do I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair Rodriguez. Member Gonzalez,
Aye.
Member Powers,
Aye. Aye.
Member Spencer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schlick,
Aye.
Chair Rodriguez.
Aye.
Madam Chair, that motion passes with all members present voting aye.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now we will now move to the approval of the November 17, 2022 San Diego County Air Pollution Control District Hearing Board Statement of Proceedings / minutes. So going back again, are there any comments from the members of the board on the November 17, 2022 Statement of Proceedings? I do not see any hands raised. How about any comments from the APCD?
No comments.
Perfect. The thing that there are no comments. Is there a motion to approve, the statement of proceedings for November 17, 2022? Vice Chair Schlick, has the motion. Do I get a second?
I'll second.
Dr. Spencer will actually second, that motion. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Member Gonzalez,
Aye.
Member Powers, Member Powers,
Aye.
thank you. Member Spencer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schlick,
Aye.
Chair Rodriguez.
Aye.
Madam Chair, that motion passes with all members present voting aye.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The next item on the agenda is the continuance of teleconferencing meeting option pursuant to Government Code Section 5495 within parentheses. We will now open the discussion to renew the continuance of teleconferencing meeting option. Madam Clerk, could you please provide us the background?
Thank you, Chair Rodriguez. Effective October 1st, 2021, AB 361 amended the Brown Act to allow suspension of the general teleconferencing requirements if there is a proclaimed state of emergency and state or local officials have imposed or recommended measures to promote social distancing. Revised teleconferencing requirements must be met, including providing notice of the meeting as otherwise required by the Brown Act, and providing an opportunity for all persons to attend and to address the legislative body directly via a call-in option or an internet-based service option. In order for this board to continue with meetings under revised teleconferencing procedures, the hearing board must again adopt a resolution with required findings and adopt a resolution to renew those findings every 30 calendar days. The requested action before your board today is to adopt the resolution entitled Resolution Authorizing Continuance of Teleconferenced Public Meetings Pursuant to Government Code Section 54953.
Madam Clerk, could you please show that code section? Perfect. In the meantime, while this has been displayed, we have the expertise of Dr. Spencer on the board. And Dr. Spencer, it is dire out there. Could you please provide us with your expert summary and opinion?
Yeah, I think everybody in the medical community, especially, but also the community at large, is really suffering with all the respiratory illness out there right now. COVID has ticked up slightly, although the larger burdens at the current moment are influenza and RSV. Hospitals are bursting at the seams. Multiple places are on diversion. Finding a hospital bed, especially for a child, is very tough. So I think we can continue to make the findings to continue meeting by teleconference at this time.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Spencer. That's certainly we're also seeing as well. At work, places of employment, a little bit about everything. These viruses definitely, from a scientific standpoint, are really very interesting. From a health perspective, we definitely need to take care of ourselves and everybody else. So I definitely agree. So, are there any comments from other members of the board? Okay, if that's the case, do I actually have a motion for continuance?
I'll move.
I didn't hear. Mia, did you catch that? Okay, do I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Senator Powers. Mia, could you please call the roll?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Member Gonzalez?
Aye.
Member Powers?
Aye.
Member Spencer?
Aye.
Vice Chair Schlick?
Aye.
Chair Rodriguez?
Aye.
Madam Chair, that item passes with all members present voting aye.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and thank you, everybody, by the way, to take care of yourself. I'm definitely a proponent of masks. Consider that. The next item on the agenda, is the discussion of the revised hearing board rules of procedure. Today, we certainly have a packed agenda, with regular, variance hearing. So, and due to time constraints and consideration of the members of the public that may be participating, I would like to suggest continuing this item for the next available hearing board meeting. By the way, it could be, there may be a proposal, that in January to have just a special meeting to dedicate exclusively, to this item, that is being rolling, and we definitely need to take attention to that. Chair Slick, and I know that you actually have comments.
Yeah, I would make that motion. I think for the members of the public today that wish to speak on the pending the petitions, as well as the lengthy new petition before the board regarding the Palomar landfill, I think that also the time that it's going to take to dedicate a true review of the rules, continued review, we really should dedicate an entire meeting. And so I would suggest we postpone it to January. But that we address it, very soon though, in January.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that definitely, that is my proposal as well. And there may be, a need for a special meeting, in addition to those scheduled. Are there any other comments from the members of the board? Okay, so if that, is the case, I mean, I bet, Vice Chair Schlick, indicated that she would actually make the motion for continuance. I would gladly second that. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Madam Chair, would you clarify the date that you would like this item to come back on? We have scheduled meetings on January 12th and January 26th.
We have, I believe, that newly coming back on the 26th from the previous meeting. I would say that definitely take a look, on the 8th, and we can definitely start there.
On the 12th.
Excuse me, the 12th.
Madam Chair, the motion is to continue the discussion of the revised rules of procedure to January 12th.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for clarification. Member Gonzalez,
Aye.
Member Powers,
Aye.
Member Spencer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schlick,
Aye.
Chair Rodriguez.
Aye.
Madam Chair, that motion passes with all members present voting aye.
I'll be with you in just 1 second. Let me actually finish my notes here. Okay. Thank you so very much, everybody. Well, we are going to start, listening to petition 45, 30, which is another petition, before the board. So before we begin the discussion for 4530, which is the County of San Diego Department of Public Works, Palomar Airport Landfill, Madam Clerk, have we received any requests from members of the public, that wish to address the board today on public communication?
Madam Chair, we have received no requests from the members of the public to address the board under petition 4530. However, if there are any members of the public on the teleconference line wishing to address the board under non-agenda public communication, please raise your hand now by pressing *9 or using the raise hand feature on Zoom. Madam Chair, seeing no hands raised, there are no members of the public wishing to provide public comment on petition 4530 this evening.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Well, as discussed, Mary, the board will then take a presentation from APCD staff first, then petitioner presentation from representatives of the County of San Diego Department of Public Works, Palomar Airport Landfill, and then we will proceed with any members of the public that would like to address the hearing board today, to provide everybody, a fair representation here. So from the APCD, who will be the indicated individual making the presentation?
Me.
Oh, hello, Amanda Scott. Amanda, welcome. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Scott Nestor, Civil Actions Investigator for APCD. My presentation will generally follow the structure in the district's response that was posted on December 1st. Madam Clerk, could you start my slides, please? And go ahead and advance it.
And do we need to to accept these slides first, Madam Chair? Because they were not given soon enough to be part of the agenda packet.
They were not? I thought that it was part of the first. Okay, so Madam Clerk, could you please, validate that they were not presented, part of the packet?
Madam Chair, district response slides their presentation were not provided as part of the initial agenda packet for distribution. However, petitioner slides were.
Perfect. So thank you so very much. On that, good call. That's Chair Schlick. Then, if that is the case, we need to accept this, into the file, as exhibit A or 1, whichever nomenclature you want to give it, Madam Clerk. And do I have a motion to approve, the acceptance of the presentation?
I'll make the motion, but just to ask the district, this is not adding to your already written response. This is just supposed to be helpful materials to help us understand your response.
That is correct.
Okay, then I would make the motion, and you sent them in response and you couldn't get them to us soon enough, so there's good reason for us to take them today.
That's correct. The petition was filed on the same day, I believe. Well, it was actually posted on the same day. So these are, these are as quickly as we could produce them.
Okay, then I would make the motion to accept these slides as helpful materials to help the hearing board.
Do I get a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Member Gonzalez,
Aye.
Member Powers,
Aye.
Member Spencer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schlick,
Aye.
Chair Rodriguez.
Aye.
Madam Chair, the motion to accept the district's presentation as Exhibit A passes with all members present voting aye.
I mean, Mr. Nestor, just before we can proceed, certainly thank you for the presentation. I mean, but from the perspective of the presentation today, you can definitely provide additional information, particularly as you gain knowledge. Okay, so it doesn't have to be, that's set in stone. Whether we have accepted or not, in writing, that's a whole different thing. Because definitely testimony can be provided verbally, and this is what you actually have. We have definitely have that as part of the rule for the board, and we have validated that from the several training sessions that we have actually taken with the ARB. Just wanted to make a clarification on that one. So, Mr. Nestor, could you please then proceed with your presentation? Thank you.
Okay, can we advance to the second slide, please? This is an aerial photograph of Palomar Airport landfill provided by the petitioner. You can obviously see the runway of the airport. The landfill units are outlined in blue, orange, and magenta. Unit 3 of the landfill, where the current problem is at the east end of the runway on the right. You can see Palomar Airport Road on the southern property line, and El Camino Real, the road running on the east side. The airport is neighbored by businesses to the north and south, and the closest residents are just out of frame here, about a half-mile southeast of Unit 3. Next slide, please. The landfill is inactive, but the decomposition of waste deposited in the 1960s and 70s still generates organic gases, including toxic air contaminants. To prevent the landfill gas from being emitted, the site is equipped with a gas collection system consisting of 77 wells that draw the gas from the waste material and piping that takes the gas to a flare. That flare burns the organic emissions, reducing them to mostly carbon dioxide and water vapor. If the gas collection stops working, the landfill gas will gradually come to the surface. In the permit to operate and Rule 59, the district sets emission limits for surface emissions, as well as leaks from the gas collection system, and measures to ensure the integrity of the gas collection system. The landfill has been under district permit for 3 decades and has not been the subject of any major violations or public nuisances. Next slide, please. On October 17th, petitioner called in a breakdown on the gas collection system because oxygen concentration of the landfill gas was approaching the permit limit of 3.5%. This automatically shut down the flare. The district inspected the facility the next day and determined that it was a valid breakdown under Rule 98. According to the petitioner, the main issue is that the gas collection system is damaged somewhere underground, allowing air intrusion. On October 21st, petitioner was granted an emergency variance that ran until November 16th to facilitate their diagnostics and repairs. And in that time, petitioner and their contractor have conducted potholing, but were not successful so far in locating the damaged underground components. The landfill gas was most recently measuring at around 6 to 7% oxygen, which is non-compliant, but the surface measurements during the potholing did not indicate any excess emissions. Next slide, please. On November 10th, petitioner filed for an interim and regular variance to facilitate their efforts to locate and repair the underground damage. Finding and repairing that damage requires the temporary shutdown of the system, which could cause violations of the 500 ppm limit and the 1375 ppm limit. Petitioner is seeking relief from permit condition number 7 and 8 and several sections of District Rule 59. In supplemental materials submitted on November 30th, petitioner requested relief from Rule 59, Section E3, but that request was withdrawn by petitioner after we discussed it. The petitioner also asked for the regular variance to remain in effect until November 10th, 2023, if they find that the gas collection system needs to be replaced. So before I get to the district response, let me pause to see if petitioner would like to clarify anything I've presented so far.
No, your presentation is correct. Thank you, Scott.
Okay. Moving on down to the next slide. The district's response to the petition was filed with the clerk on November 30th and provides the technical reasoning for our position. Today, I'll just be summarizing that position. Under state law, the hearing board can grant the interim variance for good cause, but the 6 findings must be made for granting the regular variance next month. The district uses the 6 findings to evaluate both kinds of petitions. And I want to be clear that our comments on this slide are only for the interim variance, which would expire on January 12th, not the regular variance. So for finding A, we agree that the petitioner will be in violation of conditions 7 and 8 of the permit to operate and Rule 59, Section D1 IIA and Section D3. We also agree for finding B that the cause is beyond reasonable control for the interim variance period. The slide also says that we want to see steady progress toward compliance. And to that point, we would ask the petitioner to address the potholing schedule to date and the schedule for future potholing, as that rate of progress will inform our position on the regular variance in January. On finding C and D, we believe the emissions would not be reduced if the system was shut down, and that petitioner has duly considered curtailment. For findings E and F, we've made some recommendations for operations and monitoring to reduce the potential for excess emissions and nuisance. Okay, next slide, please, Madam Clerk. The district is not opposed to the interim variance, but for condition number 7 and the rule sections, we believe the variance should be limited to excavation and repair activities, the time and place of those excavation and repair activities. We also want to see steady progress toward compliance, which is more of an issue in the regular variance. Next slide, please. Now, these are the conditions recommended by the district. The exact wording is in the position paper. Recommendations including monitoring and weekly reporting and a weekly plan for potholing and a notification when compliance is achieved. And also we would request the petitioner to provide more information to provide to justify the regular variance lasting until November 2023. We want to see that there is a real possibility that the gas control system needs to be replaced in order to evaluate that request. Finally, I'd like to repeat that for the regular variance hearing in January, we'll also be looking to see that there has been a solid effort to locate the damaged parts and that petitioner is using a systematic process of elimination for future potholing. That concludes my presentation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Nestor. I mean, as always, very succinct. By the way, your position paper is very complete, so thank you. We know that the rainy season in San Diego is starting pretty soon. So how will that impact, this is not now to the APCD influence at this point in time. How do you think that's going to impact, the next 30 days?
I couldn't hear what you just asked. You were breaking up on us.
Okay. I mean, for the excavation aspect, that you're actually indicating that that they need to provide a quantitative for excavation. We actually enter the rainy days, the rainy season in San Diego. So that there may be a potential for the petitioner not to be able to do the excavation at the actual. Is the district okay with that?
Well, I wish we could do something about the weather. Actually, the weather is pretty good usually here, but we understand that there are difficulties because of weather in conducting these kinds of operations. What we do want to see is a good plan for carrying out the potholing and using a systematic process.
Perfect. I just wanted to bring it up, because as these documents are definitely in the public domain, I just want people also to understand, that there may be some challenges, so to how it is not that put together. That's all there is. Okay. Mr. Nestor. Other than that, I do not have any questions for the district. Do any members of the board have any questions for the district?
I do have a question. Scott, is this plastic piping? And what is the nature of the piping?
Yeah, it is plastic. I would defer the specifics of the compound to the petitioner.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bill. Any other questions or comments to the APCD from the members of the board? No. Well, thank you so very much. Scott. Of course, not stand by. Okay. Now, it would be the turn, of the County of San Diego Public Works Department, to make a presentation. Ms. Winfrey, will you be the one making the presentation?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So, Ms. Winfrey, as you have heard, that Mr. Nestor say many, many times, even though, the Public Works Department for the landfill is considered an essential public function, here for the, health and safety code, definition, just please make sure that you address, all the elements that are the different findings, all 6 of them, to, for us to be able to consider these variants. So go ahead, please.
Okay, will the board be sharing the presentation or, oh, here it comes. Thank you. Thank you, Mia. All right, so thank you. Good morning. My name is Jen Winfrey, and I am the unit manager in the County of San Diego's Department of Public Works, who oversees the closed landfills program. With me today, I have my staff, Craig Burnett and Melissa Porter, as well as staff from our landfill gas consultant, SCS engineers, Brian Duffy and Vidya Vishwanathan. And then I believe our council is also in attendance today. Thank you for allowing us to present as part of our application for the interim variance, which Scott already detailed what sections we were asking for. And he mentioned that we have applied for the regular variance, which will be heard in January. Next slide. So portions of the Palomar Airport were operated by the county as a municipal solid waste landfill from 1962 to 1975, as shown on the map. The county performs monthly maintenance and monitoring of the closed landfill to protect public and environmental health. There are 3 landfill units and a gas system, which the district described earlier. And this site is an active airport, which means that the gas system is undergrounded. Next slide. So during an inspection on October 17th, unusual settlement of the landfill cover was observed in a small area of Unit 3, which is northeast of the runway. The area of settlement is indicated on this map with the yellow circle. Upon further inspection, evidence of elevated temperatures was observed in an underground vault that houses components of the landfill gas system. Monitoring data shows that elevated temperatures are limited to a small localized area less than 25 feet in diameter. The event is located in close proximity to an area where a high heat incident occurred in 2008, which is indicated on this map with the blue circle. There is no risk of an above ground fire, and there have not been any observed emissions from the landfill above regulatory thresholds during this period. The county is working closely with regulatory agencies and took immediate actions to minimize impacts to the community and the environment. And we are continuing our investigations, which we'll detail a little bit more in a minute, to identify that oxygen intrusion and resolve this event. Next slide. In consultation with regulatory agencies, a 3-phase response was initiated by the county, and it follows the standard protocols for the solid waste industry with the objective of quickly and efficiently gathering data to monitor the event as well as resolve it through investigations and actions. Next slide. The county took immediate actions to minimize and monitor the event, including shutting down the landfill gas flare to avoid drawing oxygen into the area of concern, inspecting the rest of the landfill area for any areas of rapid settlement or other evidence of elevated temperatures, securing the area for employee and community safety, increasing the frequency of methane monitoring to ensure that surface emissions remained below regulatory thresholds, installing temperature probes, and investigating the source of oxygen. The flare was restarted in the area of concern after that area was isolated. The flare was restarted for all of the landfill units after the area of concern was isolated from the landfill gas collection system and after the county received that emergency variance from APCD. The landfill gas collection system is operating normally in units 1 and 2 in the majority of unit 3, and there have not been any observed leaks or emissions above regulatory thresholds since the incident occurred. Next slide. The county notified regulatory agencies within 24 hours and continues to work closely with the APCD, the local enforcement agency, and the Regional Water Quality Control Board to comply with all regulatory requirements as we are investigating and trying to address this event. We've also been working with the Federal Aviation Authority, who recently approved limited day work to help us advance in our investigations and remedial actions. We report to APCD weekly as required by the emergency variance. The county organized a site visit for regulatory agencies on November 2nd, and that was to allow for site inspection, collaboration, and discussions to hopefully identify some additional possible avenues for investigation or remediation so that we could make sure that we were doing everything that we could to identify the cause of this event and address it. Additionally, the county has informed businesses in the area and has offered free indoor methane monitors and inspections out of an abundance of caution. Next slide. While similar events have shown that subsurface elevated temperatures can be ongoing for a long period of time while actions are taken to identify and suppress the source of oxygen, the county has taken an aggressive approach to resolving this event, including monitoring and investigating the event in accordance with regulatory guidelines and consulting with regulatory agencies for best practices from other similar events. We are utilizing every resource and knowledge base available to us as we proceed. The county has established baseline parameters to monitor carbon monoxide, which is an indicator of combustion, subsurface temperatures, and oxygen levels at the landfill gas flare. In Unit 3, the county is monitoring weekly for methane surface emissions, and this ongoing monitoring will provide data on if the event is subsiding or expanding. Next slide. Wait, are we? Sorry, back one slide. So the county has identified that the oxygen intrusion is occurring in landfill unit number 3 and not in units 1 or 2. And we have focused and continued our investigations in that unit to identify the source of oxygen. Investigations have identified that the landfill cap is a minimum of 4 feet thick in areas where it has been investigated, and therefore the oxygen intrusion is likely from a broken subsurface gas line or a nearby capped abandoned storm drain. To date, 15 locations have been potholed, resulting in 13 subsurface landfill gas lines being investigated, either by sampling the gases in the lines or capping inactive lines. And these investigations have not resulted in a reduction of the oxygen at the flare, which means that we still have not identified the oxygen intrusion source. Next slide. When granting the emergency variance, Chairperson Rodriguez did advise us to return to request that interim and regular variance within about 3 weeks, which would have been November 11th, if we hadn't resolved the issue. And so we did so, submitting our application on November 10th for the permit rules and conditions that were described before. We did later withdraw one of the sections of Rule 59, as Scott did indicate. And today your board is considering our request for that interim variance, and we will return on January 12th for the regular variance if we have not resolved the incident by that time. I do apologize, we did not structure this presentation to meet your 6-part requirements for reviewing these requests, and we will do so for the January presentation if it is necessary. But we are available to answer any questions to address any of those points that we did not hit.
So thank you, Ms. Murphy. I mean, a really very good presentation. Certainly, you must address the 6 points. I mean, that when you come back for the regular. Okay, so that is a requirement. Today, we're looking to see, if we can definitely grant, this variance, with the provision that addressing of those 6 points can be made, in January 12th, okay?
Yes.
So, and and also, I know that certainly a schedule is not a requirement, for those 12 months, but it is definitely something that the APCD is requesting. I will be requesting, that's how I speak, certainly, and just not to hold people, to those, commitments. And I think, that is relevant, to the public as well, to actually have, that time schedule. Okay. Very, very discreet. So certainly, today we definitely take a look, at a good cost, that with the provision that we're going to be able to make the findings in January 12th. Okay.
Thank you.
Also, thank you so very much, for doing that. Again, really very good presentation. And I, for the benefit of those, the members of the board, as you indicated, I heard, the emergency variance, and certainly I could anticipate, that we're going to actually going to the next step of the regular variance. So thank you, for meeting all those commitments for the emergency variance, which were actually really very tight, for you, at the time. Okay. So personally, that I have no questions for you at this point in time. So I'm going to allow, the other members of the board to ask other questions. I know that Member Powers had a previous question as well. So Bill, if you would like, to proceed with your question.
Thank you, Chair Rodriguez. Hello, Jen. Just just confirmation that it's plastic pipe, and that you put a blue circle on there where there was a high impact incident 2008, I think. Is the county implying by that blue circle that whatever that high impact or high speed incident was, that it's likely that it's in that pretty reduced area where you have a problem?
So the 2008 incident was a high heat incident that went on for quite some time. There is still some settlement in that area as it continues to happen after events of that type. And that event was fed by an underground storm drain, which was indicated on the map on the slide with the investigations. We're still getting access to that storm drain to investigate it if it is potentially also the cause of the oxygen intrusion for this event. But we did locate a temperature probe in the center of that old event area, and it does not have any elevated temperatures at this time. So that event is not active, or that old event has not been reactivated and is not as part of this current event. As for your question on the type of the piping, it is a plastic piping, but for the specifics for it, I will refer that question to our consultant, SCS. I believe that Brian definitely will be able to answer that question.
Before we proceed with all the members, that you actually have from SCS, engineers, which is your consultant firm, of choice working up with you on this issue. I just want to make sure that all those individuals are going to be speaking, by the member of the board. Yeah, have they all been sworn in?
Pardon, I wasn't able to hear all of that. There was some background noise.
I think the chair was asking our clerk if all the members that plan to be speaking were sworn in.
Okay.
It appeared it to me, but Madam Clerk, if you could answer the first question.
I apologize for the background noise, Madam Chair. To my knowledge, all members have been sworn in, although if I have missed anyone, please acknowledge that you still require to be sworn in prior to giving testimony today.
It seems as though that almost that everybody has been sworn in. So
That is correct.
Perfect.
That is correct, Madam
Well,
Chair.
if that is the case, so then let's proceed, with your presentation, Ms. Winfrey, and certainly I know that you called SCS engineers to provide additional details.
Thank you. So Brian, if you can address the question on the typing of the pipe.
Yep. Good morning, everybody. The piping is plastic pipe. It's high density polyethylene pipe. It's the black plastic pipe, HDPE, as an acronym.
Maybe it's me, but that was a very low volume on my end. On the receiving end, I think I heard, the PE piping. Is that true?
HDPE piping. That's correct.
HDPE. Okay. So is there any way that either by positioning, your volume can become a little bit lighter, louder? Just me suggesting that. So thank you. So HDPE is okay. No, so. Member Powers, any other questions?
No further questions.
Thank you so very much. Are there any questions from the other members of the board? Okay, I do actually have a couple of questions for you, Ms. Winfrey, and for your staff. I know that 30 days, and that you provided kind of a high level timeline, for activity. How are you positioned to complete, those activities, within the 30-day period? Of course, exclude the bottom. One is only, four lines, I guess. I just wanted to make sure, that you are able to complete your excavation, for example, and the buttholing during the period of the interim period.
So we are continuing with our investigations. We actually were able to pothole in 2 locations yesterday, and we will continue to do so during this interim variance period. To try to investigate that source of oxygen. We're also working diligently to get access to that storm drain entrance, which is actually on a private property to the north of the landfill right now. So we're working through the property access rights with the property owner currently. As you mentioned earlier, there is some weather dependent restrictions here. When it does rain, the general rule is that we do not go onto landfills for a minimum of 3 days due to obviously the risk from damaging the cap, getting vehicles stuck, and then in a system like this where the pipes are underground, damaging the pipes underground even further than we already believe we do have some sort of break underground. So we have been fortunate with some work scheduled where rain also was scheduled, where the rain didn't come or was very light, and we were able to do that work. And now with the FAA allowance to allow day work in a portion of Unit 3, and we have requested an additional FAA allowance for all of Unit 3, that will facilitate us through the winter time to be able to be more strategic and have more opportunities for work around weather as we continue to investigate. As far as addressing one of the questions I believe you guys had was kind of how we strategically were proceeding with the potholing. If you would like us to address that, I'll refer that question to Brian at this point too.
Definitely not. Let's go ahead. Brian, I guess your SCF engineer representative, can definitely address that. And one of the things that I would like to do with you as well is to go through all the findings so that we can capture that. On this recording.
Yes.
But let's actually address that question first.
Okay.
So please go ahead.
Okay, so finding A, will we be in violation? We would be. The flare oxygen levels have been above throughout this entire time period. I believe our lowest level was maybe a 5.4 on one day. We have been able to, all of our observed recordings have shown no leaks or emissions from the landfill at that point. However, with the system off for a portion of Unit 3 to avoid exacerbating the incident, and during all of this potholing activity, it is certainly possible that we would be in violation of those other rules that we requested the variance for. Finding B, compliance is beyond our reasonable control. This is an underground gas system. Portions of it were installed originally back in the mid-90s, and we have been making work on replacing portions of it as needed, and then in most recent years, more systematically addressing kind of replacing the system to bring it up. Because it is below ground, we are not able to identify where that leak is easily. So it is out of our reasonable control until we identify that source underground, which is just unfortunately much more complicated than an above ground system.
And we all know though that these landfills are a living community and ecosystem, you know, that definitely does not go away. I mean, so.
Yes. So for finding C, closure or taking procedures for corresponding reductions, this isn't an active landfill closing. There's no more closure to be done. We are, trying to do everything we can to investigate, comply with regulatory agencies, as well as confer with regulatory agencies to make sure that we're monitoring and managing this incident with all of the best practices considered. And as we have said, we haven't had any observed emissions above the landfill surface, above any regulatory thresholds during this time period.
And will you continue to monitor?
We do. We have continued the monitoring, even though the emergency variance did expire late last month. And so we have continued to report to APCD under the requirements for that. And we actually have done additional monitoring and will continue to do additional monitoring that wasn't required by APCD for this event, for the safety of everyone involved in the community, and also to monitor the event to make sure that we understand what is occurring and involve regulatory agencies kind of to hold meetings if anything switches on site and we need to address those changes to the site conditions. For finding D, petitioner has considered curtailing operations. We actually haven't considered curtailing operations, except for we have scheduled many night closures at the airport in order to allow us to do work before we had that FAA allowance to do day work. And that allowance is limited to a portion of the area in that kind of northwestern quadrant of Unit 3, whereas our investigations have been throughout Unit 3 due to the nature of, and the flow of the landfill gas system in that area. So it's not an active landfill, so there was no ability to curtail ongoing operations from that side of things, but we have been working closely with our airport staff and FAA to make sure that we're able to get access to the site to do as much work as possible, as quickly as possible, to identify that source of oxygen intrusion.
I have a question. I mean, in your presentation, however, you indicated that you have offered, the gas monitors, that to the neighboring. Does that also include, the airport?
Yes, so on the airport parcel, we've actually been able to make sure that every building except the FAA tower has, on the airport property itself, every building except for the FAA tower has a monitor at this point. And then we did do outdoor and indoor inspections while the landfill gas system was off, and for the week after, when we were getting that emergency variance and immediately afterwards, to make sure that there were no impacts from that system being off for that 5-day period. We did offer them to off-site properties because there is businesses in relatively close proximity to the landfill units, not just Unit 3, but all of the landfill units on Palomar. It's best practice in to have indoor methane monitors if you're within 1,000 feet of a landfill. State regulation, however, when it was originally crafted, fell short of requiring that for any properties that were not on the contiguous parcel of a landfill. So they're not required to have them. We were only able to offer them and to make them free and available to people to encourage them to have them. And for the offsite properties, we've only had one property that's been interested in those monitors, and they are still reviewing with their council the agreement for us to come in and inspect their property and give them the monitors. But no other properties have responded to date that they want those monitors, even though we've reached out to them by mail as well as through phone calls to the owners or the property managers to try to encourage them to get these monitors.
I have definitely, I want for you to highlight these elements, because it may be kind of diluted. As we actually discussed, the 6 findings. Because even though there's no containment because of the ecosystem within the land the landfill, however, you have reached out and then only use the APCD requirements and the state requirements, but those other requirements for all the other agencies having jurisdiction of your landfill. So definitely I commend you. Just as an industrial hygienist here, I just make sure that these people also know how to use the monitor.
Yes.
If you can give them the tools, but how to use the monitor is integral for them to also safeguard their own safety, okay?
Yes.
Just an advice.
Thank you. Yeah, we've had extensive conversations on how to communicate that to people so that it's understandable, the importance as well as the actual practicalities of it.
Yeah.
For finding E, petitioner will reduce excess emissions to the maximum extent feasible, except for the oxygen going to the flare. We have maintained the landfill units to have appropriate gas extraction and to not exceed those regulatory thresholds during this time period. We continue to do so, and we will continue to do so to the maximum extent possible to make sure there are no impacts to the environment or the community. And for finding F, petitioner will monitor and qualify emissions, and emissions are not likely to cause a nuisance or a threat to public safety. We are monitoring emissions from the surface of the landfill weekly. We're monitoring in compliance with the original emergency variants, and we will continue to do so until such a time as you guys give us, I guess, more stringent requirements for reporting, and we will institute those. We also have our additional monitoring that we're doing for the event itself. And today, as we've said multiple times, there have not been any observed emissions from the surface of the landfills, either from the surface or from the landfill gas components. The only item that has been out of compliance is the oxygen level at the flare, which the maximum allowance is 3.5, and we've been in excess of that since October 17th. And we continue to monitor that on a daily basis to ensure, to try to track what's happening within the system if we've potentially identified part of that oxygen intrusion source.
Thank you very much. That was not really very comprehensive. And a very good summary. Any questions from the members of the board? Vice Chair, please.
Yes, I think you did address some of my things that had, kind of tickled my brain during your presentation and during reading all the materials. But just kind of for the basics, because I'm not an engineer, and we do have an engineer on our board, Bill Powers, but just kind of for the, for the lay people, that are listening today. So a heightened oxygen level, I'm thinking oxygen is flammable, and then you've also got the methane happening. So is the concern or safety concern here that it's potentially, like you said, like the 2008, or you said it was a heat event? So it could be a hazardous condition if it doesn't get under control, right?
Yes, so predominantly the risk from these underground heat events at landfills is emissions from the landfill. That is the risk that you're getting. Essentially, you are having kind of a smoldering event underground, and if there are emissions released through the landfill, either through the surface or out the sides of the landfill. This landfill was built in the canyon, so it's got a little bit different on that northern side. Those are generally kind of your risks from these types of events, and we haven't seen any emissions or any odors during this time period. And actually during the 2008 event, which went on for more than a year, they also didn't have any observed above ground emissions or odors. So both of these incidents have been relatively small. This one is smaller than the 2008 one at this point in time. And so that's what you're looking for, and we haven't seen that. So as long as we manage this event, trying to curtail it until we identify that oxygen intrusion and then ultimately resolve the incident, it's that emissions monitoring that we're looking for impacts to the community and any public health risks. For the landfill itself, these types of incidents will cause a settlement subsidence within it, which can also obviously disturb those underground gas lines. And so those are other things that we will be addressing as the event moves forward, and once it's resolved, to make sure that the gas system is fully functional, and continuing to work into the future to capture those gases and make sure there are not emissions. And then Brian, if you have anything to contribute to that question. Still.
Hi, Jen. No, Jen, you summed it up very well. The oxygen that we're observing at the flare station is primarily from that unit 3. The 6% or so oxygen we're seeing at the flare station is coming from that area, but from that localized area.
Yeah, but the oxygen is pulling through the system to the flare. The methane is being burned off at the flare as per normal, and there hasn't been any indications of methane. No observed methane releases from the surface or the system components of the landfill during this time. While oxygen, obviously, and methane are part of these incidents, we are not seeing any public health risks from those components at this time.
Thank you. Has your question been addressed, by Churchlick?
Yes, and the other things I had thought about were addressed through the presentation. I think I remember seeing member Spencer trying to raise his hand at one point or another. So I'll defer to the other members at this point.
I had 2 questions, but one was asked by Vice Chair Schlick and the other was asked by Chair Rodriguez. So nothing further from me right now.
Thank you so very much. Member Gonzalez, do you have any questions?
No, ma'am, I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. No, Member Gonzalez. Any other comments? Good. Just wanted to let you know that my Zoom is actually playing tricks on me because it goes from all the tiles on top to the side, and then I lose everything, so I did not want to miss you, Member Spencer, so thank you, by Church, okay. I would definitely like to, again, just go back, to the finding of good cause. For these interim variants, that it will definitely last until the next scheduled meeting, which I believe is January 12th, for the regular portion, of this variance request. Certainly, I can definitely see that we can make it. Well, I can make, the 6 findings, rather easily. And I actually commend, the City of San Diego Public Works Department, to addressing this in such a systematic, approach, to finding something that is truly a needle in the haystack. So it is that difficult. And certainly not only working with the APCD, but all the other agencies having jurisdiction, because there are many. So we requiring, immediate compliance, is almost impossible to the Special Public Service, particularly this type of, compliance. So I truly believe, that the work that has been done between, the City of San Diego Public Works Department and certainly the APCD is making progress, towards a solution and control. On the timeline, for the next portion, which is the interim period, I truly believe that is fairly comprehensive for what we can actually do. And certainly, it makes the progress on that one for solution. I think you have positioned really very well, on this one. So do I actually have anybody, within the member of the board that would like to make, the motion of good, the findings of good cause?
So I think I could make the findings of good cause. I'm wondering when do we address the district recommendations list at the end of the district's list? Is that like after we make the motions of good cause, or do we put it as part of the?
Put it as part of the motion per se, that by Chair Schlick, so I do actually would have, one question for Mr. Nestor, on the conditions, Scott, I'm looking at your conditions here, certainly, and I'm looking at continue monitoring, okay, so if you look at your conditions, letter D, number 3, it is indicated that measurements recorded, during monitoring obey B and C. I would imagine, though, that the measurements that you want are for oxygen. I just want to make sure that, we are really very clear.
Mia, could you put that slide back up? The slide number 8 of mine? Because I can't get to my
on the district packet for today, it appears to me on page 137 out of 151.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at. I'm just giving you the pointers as well until Mia gets the information.
Which one were you asking about, Madam Chair?
That D as in David, number 3.
Daily surface emissions monitoring. That's not oxygen. That's non-methane organic compounds, actually measured as methane. That's surface emissions. And then
so you can see why I'm asking though, because it says measurements. I think that we need to be really very discreet at what they're actually required to measure.
Yes, they're okay.
So let's work on that. Before we proceed. If possible. So I actually see, the petition shall perform daily monitoring, for natural gas O2 concentration at the flare station. That is really, really very clear. And I would imagine, that you want those measurements in part per million. How do you want that, the measurement? Part per million by volume or what?
Yeah, those measurements, the surface emissions measurements are for the 500 ppm limit.
Okay, good.
And then the next one is on the gas control and capture and control system. And that's for the 1,375 ppm limit.
Okay, and that would be for methane. Yes.
As measured as methane. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm suggesting, though, that we take these conditions and we are very discreet as to what it is that they're going to measure, not only as to the type of gas, but also the units that are going to be. I'm sorry, now the chemist in me comes out. Okay, so there's just to be very clear. So that. Well, are you okay, if we actually say, petition shall perform daily monitoring, for natural gases O2 concentration and within parentheses ppm. ppm stands for parts per million at the flare station.
No, it's in percentage. It's in percent.
Okay, so do you want percent? So multiply it, by 10,000, so that you go back and forth, so that's no problem. Okay.
10%, yeah.
Yep.
Just as it is in the permit to operate.
Perfect. Okay, so then we can definitely go back to petition of daily monitoring of landfill gases concentration. At the flare station. In the unit described in the permit to operate.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
I think that would work great. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. So let's go on to the next one. So the petitioner shall perform daily surface emissions monitoring in the areas of excavation during any excavation and repair. Would you want that also in the unit? Per the permit to operate?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So let's add that. So that will be unequivocal. Okay. So I don't want an over petitioner to miss the vote on this one. Okay. ones that the professionals that perform daily leak monitoring, on DCSC, CS rather, affected when the, DC, gas control, whatever, shut off during any excavation and or repair. Also, for the permit to operate.
Yes.
Good. And then the weekly report, that shall include the plan schedule for excavation, potholing events for the week, so you want all of this to be done by date. So your table should be the date, the activity, O2 in percent, the emissions, per the permit to operate, and any other leak monitoring.
The petitioner has been providing us weekly reports to date for the emergency variance period and after that, and the format has been fine. And if we can stick with that format, it's good. The only addition here is for the planned potholing event. Yeah.
Yeah, I know because we definitely discussed that with the emergency variance. I think that we just need to either say continue, that providing the report in the same format as the emergency, variance, or something along those lines, that provide consistency. I just find again, for me it's a little bit too loose as written.
Okay.
Sorry.
The next one says measurements recorded during monitoring of A, B, and C above, and that, that I think that covers what we were talking about.
Yeah, so maybe just we could probably just for ease in this D3, Chair Rodriguez, we could make it measurements recorded during monitoring of A, B, and C above, measurements in the units as provided and required in the permit and in the format that had been used for the emergency variance, continue the same format.
Yeah, I just want the consistent, the continuity.
So it's clear.
Clarification was needed.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. So could you please repeat, your revisions, to D3?
Me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so my proposed revision to D3, to sum up what we were talking about with A, B, and C, was measurements recorded during monitoring of A, B, and C above, as required and in units indicated per the permit, and in the format of the emergency variance weekly reports, in the same continuing format.
Yeah, in the report format, if you don't mind.
Yeah, in the report
format. So that's what I would actually add. For emergency variance. Mia, what is the reference to the emergency variance? Do you have the emergency variance available?
4528.
I'm sorry?
It's 4528.
Perfect.
So yeah, so indicate per emergency variance number, what did you say, 4528?
Correct.
Yeah.
Now that definitely provides the clarification that is needed. Okay. So now I think that Vice Chair Schlick, it's ready to find good costs, and now by sharing then we can adopt the suggested conditions, for the interim variance.
Okay, and then do you need me to speak all of the findings?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the findings would be A through F. Well, for an interim variance is going to be that we have good cause, and that that we would likely be able to find the following findings as required by Health and Safety Code 42352 for granting a regular variance at the next scheduled board meeting, where we will be taking up the regular variance. And those 6 findings is that petitioner is or will be in violation of district rules. The rules in violation would be the permit to operate number 910733, condition number 7, condition number 8, and rule number 59C3. And then the second finding, due to conditions beyond the reasonable control of petitioner, requiring compliance would result in either an arbitrary or unreasonable taking of property or the practical closing and elimination of a lawful business. This is also, we're making this finding, the petitioner is a public agency. This we have considered and find that requiring immediate compliance would impose an unreasonable burden upon an essential public service, which is the monitoring and maintenance of closed landfill. For purposes of this paragraph, essential public means prison. It includes a landfill, gas control, or processing facility, which is what is at topic today. And the reason why this variance is beyond a reasonable control, this one was based on the fact that this is an old landfill, and they have made an expeditious effort toward achieving compliance and addressing this, I think they're calling it this event as soon as it was identified. So that appears to be good. And then part 2 here, the impact that denial of a variance would have on the business or agency, really it would make it worse, I think. And that kind of goes to one of the next ones. But basically the level of, if they were to close down or stop the system, it would actually likely make the whole problem worse. So let me go on to the third one, C. The taking or closing would be without a corresponding benefit in reducing air contaminants. And this landfill is inactive. It's no longer accepting municipal solid waste. If the landfill gas collection system is completely shut down, the landfill will continue to generate gas, and there's an increased potential for public harm. There's a chance that there would be loss of control of the landfill gas, and the flare operating per the emergency variance. And if we grant today, which I encourage we do, to grant the interim variance, we're allowing the Department of Public Works to operate the flare above the 3.5% oxygen limit. The GCCS, I forget what that stands for, is continuing to collect the generated landfill gas. So that's a good thing that they're collecting it and not letting it out. I would add that the district had noted that shutting down the GCCS would generate more surface emissions of volatile organic compounds and toxic air contaminants. The district notes when the oxygen concentration increases in the collected landfill gas, there's a possibility more nitrogen oxide emissions could be generated by the flare. So that is kind of the burden that we're taking in order to avoid the greater harm of shutting down the GCCS. And I would, and part of my motion is to accept that district opinion. Scott Nestor has raised his hands. May I continue making the findings and then?
Yes, wait.
Okay. Okay. The fourth finding, D, that the petitioner for the variance has given consideration to curtailing operations of the source in lieu of obtaining a variance. Yes, I move that we make that finding and that it's likely to be found at the regular variance application. And the facts about this would be that the petitioner has given a detailed description of efforts to locate the source of oxygen intrusion. The weekly reports have been coming in for the emergency variance as reported by the district. Petitioner's efforts to locate the damaged components in the GCCS is the first step toward repairing and achieving compliance. And already we've addressed the problems if we curtailed or shut down the GCCS under the earlier findings. The fifth finding, E, during the period the variance is in effect, petitioner will reduce excess emissions to the maximum extent feasible. For this part, there's really for this part, I'm not really sure how to describe this. It's highly technical, but it seems like the variance is allowing an excess measurement of oxygen, but hopefully that is curtailing.
You're going in and out, unmute, Precious. Like, I think we have, unmute a couple of issues there.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
No problem.
So for this fifth part of the findings, during the period the variance is in effect, the petitioner, we are finding the petitioner will reduce excess emissions to the maximum extent feasible. And I think part of this was the offering of the monitors to the neighboring businesses, the installation of the emissions monitors throughout all the buildings on the airport, and the capping. They've been capping off and trying to find where the emissions are coming from. So that's where I would make that finding.
Could I add a little bit there?
Yes, please.
Okay, that certainly the petitioner cannot reduce, per se, okay, but they have taken very discrete alternatives and steps not to measure, minimize the impact. The district has definitely, and so has the petitioner, indicating that, they have, no exits, at that point in time. So, and definitely, there will be communication to the district if actually, conditions would change. The work certainly with the neighbors, is something that, that not only to be admired, but they're also going by all the requirements, by other jurisdictions. So, really very good.
And I think also minimizing emissions is going also to the fact of expeditiously trying to get to the bottom of this, and also getting that permission from the FAA to work during the day at times. And also, if they're doing excavation, then they will be shutting down for diagnostic time periods. So very minimal shutdown, because during those shutdowns, that's when more emissions will happen. And then the last one, finding F, is about nuisance. So during the period the variance is in effect, the petitioner will monitor or otherwise quantify emission levels from the source. And we are requesting them to do so, as well as the district, per the conditions we're adding to this interim variance, and reporting those emission levels to the district pursuant to the schedule established by the district, which we are incorporating through the conditions. And we do find that if a variance is granted, these emissions will not likely create a nuisance violation because, operating the GCCS as much as possible will reduce the potential for nuisances and hazards, as well as excess VOC emissions and toxic air contaminants. And then continued operation is not likely to create an immediate threat or hazard to public health or safety. In fact, continued operation will mitigate it. And also we find the records, logs, or schedules to quantify emissions. We're going to incorporate these district recommendations. And maybe I could hand off a reading of the district recommended reports and monitoring to Mia to sum up, because she captured our discussion earlier.
So before we actually go into the clerk of the board, Madam Clerk, Mr. Nestor, your hand is raised. Any clarifications that you would like to make?
Yes, I just want to make sure that we have the correct sections of the rule.
Correct. I was going to say the same thing. It was not free. Go ahead.
Okay. It's 59 D1 IIA, and the other section is Rule 59 D, as in dog, or Delta 3.
Correct.
D3.
Yep. I mean, you cut that. I mean, before I actually wanted to say that I have, a couple of clarifications there as well. So we are synchronized. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, would you want, to read the conditions? I mean, particularly that D3, which would be, the one that we revised.
Madam Chair. One minute. Okay. Conditions, the district recommended conditions are as followed. Petitioner shall perform daily monitoring for LFG oxygen concentration at the flare station. B, petitioner shall perform daily surface emissions monitoring in the area or areas of excavation during any excavation and repair. C, petitioner shall perform daily leak monitoring on GCCS components affected when the GCCS is shut off during any excavation and or repair. D, petitioner shall submit weekly reports that include the following. D1, plan scheduled for excavation and potholing events for the following week. D2, description of all diagnostics, excavation, and repair activities. D3, measurements recorded during monitoring of A, B, and C as described above. And measurements in unit as provided in the permit to operate and repair format as indicated in the emergency petition 4528 and the reporting format as provided in emergency variance petition 4528.
Perfect.
Okay, and then these reports shall be submitted weekly by 4 p.m. to Scott Nestor at scott.nestor@sdapcd.org. Petitioner shall notify the district within 24 hours when repairs have been completed and compliance is achieved. The interim variance shall terminate when compliance achieved or on the day of the hearing for the regular variance, whichever is sooner. And prior to the hearing for the regular variance, petitioner shall provide the clerk in the district with additional information to support the request for relief lasting until November 10th, 2023.
No, so thank you very much. No, that's sure slick. Do I have a second? Second, I will second your motion. Madam Clerk, could you please let me proceed with the calling the roll?
Thank you, Chair Rodriguez. Member Gonzalez,
Aye.
Member Powers,
Aye.
Member Spencer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schlick,
Aye.
Chair Rodriguez.
Aye.
Madam Chair, the interim portion of petition 4530 is granted by the board with all members present voting aye.
Thank you so very much, Madam Clerk. So let's now proceed to petition 4527, San Diego County Air Pollution Control District, County of San Diego abatement order against respondent New Leaf Biofuel. So before we begin the discussion for petition 4527, New Leaf Biofuel, Madam Clerk, have we received any requests from members of the public that wish to address the board today on public communication?
Thank you, Chair Rodriguez. We have received one request to speak under petition 4527. Any members of the public that have requested to speak under petition 4527, please dial into the conference line now. One moment while I share that information.
And just, as a reminder, to public members, that you will be allowed a specific amount of time in only one language. Okay, so go ahead, ma'am.
Any members of the public that have requested to speak under petition 4527, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided to you. As a reminder for the callers, if you have requested to speak on a specific item listed on today's agenda, please hang up and call back when the board begins discussion on that item. I will be calling speakers by name or the last 4 digits of their phone number. You will hear a notification that your call has been unmuted, and at that time, you will need to press *6 to unmute your phone. Each caller will be asked to state their name for the audio record. You will have 2 minutes to address the board. Please self-regulate your time. I will ask that you conclude your comments when your time has ended. I would remind speakers to mute their live stream before they begin speaking. Madam Chair.
So perfect. So thank you, Madam Clerk. As customary, the board will take the presentation from the APCD staff first, and petitioner will make the presentation in representation of newly biofuel. And then any members of the public that would like to address the hearing board today will be taking following the instructions provided by the Madam Clerk. So, I mean, I will definitely leave the floor, to the APCD. I would imagine that this is Ms. Mahoney.
Okay, thank you,
you.
Madam Chair. Good morning again and greetings, everyone. For the record, my name is Mary Mahoney, Civil Actions Investigator with the APCD. And before I begin, I want to let the board know that I provided some slides to the clerk today. The slides add visual context to today's progress update. Will the board approve of these slides being presented today?
That's actually, put that to a motion. Do I get a motion, to approve, these slides? Vice Chair Slick, I guess not that I have a motion. Do I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Spencer, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Member Gonzalez.
Aye.
Member Powers.
Aye.
Member Spencer.
Aye.
Vice Chair Schlick.
Aye.
Chair Rodriguez.
Aye.
Madam Chair, the board has voted to accept the district's presentation as Exhibit A, with all members present voting aye.
Thank you so very much, Madam Clerk. But Ms. Mahoney, we're all curious. To take a look at this progress. So please go ahead.
Thank you so much. So I prepared an update to present to the board this morning about the effectiveness and compliance of the conditions in the stipulated abatement order issued by the board on October 27, 2022 against respondent New Leaf Biofuel to mitigate nuisance odors at New Leaf South plant at 2317 Newton Avenue in Barrio Logan. Next slide, please. Today's update will first review the installation of the new odor reduction system, or ORS, which was installed and has been operating since Friday, December 2nd. I will also update the board regarding the most recent public complaints since November 17th, as well as the latest on-site facility investigations and odor survey results. Slide 3, please, Mia. The main ID fan for the ORS was delivered on schedule on November 30th, 2022. The photo on the slide is a picture of the main ID fan sent to the district by New Leaf on the 30th. The fan was installed, the wiring was completed for the system, and the construction completion notification form was submitted by New Leaf to district engineering staff on Friday, December 2nd, which is also the date that the ORS began operating. The following weekend, December 3rd and December 4th, and Monday, December 5th, New Leaf conducted testing of the new ORS to verify performance. The testing included verification of the monitoring devices, a check of the differential pressure and other specifications that the district's authority to construct or temporary permit require. The final commissioning of the ORS was scheduled on Monday, December 5th, and respondent reported that the testing found that the airflow specifications were correct throughout the ductwork and into the carbon filters, and that the fan was operating as expected. The testing found that some of the pressure gauges were not sensitive enough, and new gauges with more suitable ranges have been ordered as of Monday, December 5th. The new gauges are set to be delivered by Friday, December 9th, tomorrow. The district engineering inspection will be scheduled after the new gauges are installed next week. The ORS has been operating in compliance with the stipulated abatement order conditions since December 2nd. Slide 4, please. Here's a photo of the newly installed ORS from Monday, December 5th. Photo on the left shows ducting and filter housing, and the photo on the right shows the carbon vessels. Slide 5, please. I'm going to move on to update the board on the most recent complaints. Since the last update on November 17th, the district has received one new public odor complaint. Before the stipulated abatement order was granted, there were 22 complaints filed over nearly 11 months. During the last update on November 17th, there were 31 total complaints filed, with 9 complaints being filed after the issuance of the stipulated abatement order. Now, as of yesterday, December 7th, there are a total of 32 complaints. The number of unique complaints has remained unchanged since the last progress update on the 17th. There are still 12 unique complainants and 1 anonymous complainant. The one new public complaint described, quote, "A horrible odor was coming from New Leaf that was destroying the air quality," end quote. This complaint was received on December 1st, the day prior to ORS operation. District inspectors identified distinct level odors in front of and across the street from New Leaf South Plant on this date as well. Slide 6, please. The district originally conducted 59 odor surveys prior to the order being granted. Of the 59 odor surveys, all 59 odor surveys found nuisance odors. During the previous district update on November 17th, the district had conducted 73 odor surveys. Of the 73 odor surveys, 69 have confirmed nuisance odors, for an additional 10 days of confirmed nuisance odors being identified by November 17th. The district has now conducted a total of 84 odor surveys, or an additional 11 odor surveys since the last progress update on November 17th. Of those new 11 odor surveys conducted, the district documented 6 additional days of nuisance odors. These 6 days of odor nuisance were all observed before the ORS began operating. Slide 7, please. The district has conducted 5 recent on-site facility inspections of New Leaf since the last progress update. These inspections did not find any violation of conditions in the stipulated abatement order. New Leaf was maintaining accurate records of all required inspections and cleaning procedures. No oil drips or spills were observed. The doors to the south plant remained closed and the floors and outside pavement areas were clean. The November 22nd inspection confirmed that New Leaf had begun the temporary use of an odor neutralizing misting spray at the south plant, and that a sheet metal windbreak barrier between 8 to 10 feet in height had been installed in the alleyway behind the south plant to redirect wind flow. Dirt will also be added to reinforce the wind barrier. New Leaf had also conducted more resealing around vents, ducting, and walls during this same time frame. Other than odor nuisances, no other violations of any district rules or regulations have been identified, and New Leaf has stated that they have not received any direct odor complaints to report to the district during this time frame. Slide 8, please. New Leaf is now subject to all 26 conditions in their authority to construct, or ATC. A copy of the ATC was previously submitted to the board. The ATC has some requirements to ensure the future effectiveness of nuisance odors moving forward. Condition 2 of the ATC requires New Leaf to not cause a nuisance. If enforcement is needed for this condition, this means that New Leaf have to take additional corrective actions, including possible physical changes to the ORS to cease nuisance odors. Nuisance prevention will be determined by the district and to the satisfaction of the district. Condition 4 of the ATC requires New Leaf to evaluate the ORS monthly, and if needed, it also requires New Leaf to propose additional odor control options that are permanent solutions. Slide 9, please. The ATC also requires New Leaf to regularly replace the activated carbon in the ORS and to keep the south plant under negative air pressure to ensure that odors are being directed to the ORS. New Leaf cannot modify the ORS without district approval, and the ORS is to be fully operational at all times with few exceptions. New Leaf will also now be monitoring hydrogen sulfide with a calibrated portable analyzer weekly and recording the results. Slide 10, please. The district has continued to review the odor intensity classifications for 2 areas along Newton Avenue in front of and across the street from the South Plant. These are the areas where the odors have been consistently present and strongest. In order to evaluate the most recent effectiveness of the conditions in the stipulated abatement order for abating nuisance odors, we compared the odor classifications in these 2 areas before the order went into effect and after the order was in effect up until the last progress update on November 17th, and again from November 17th until yesterday. The table on the left has the odor intensities found at these locations before the odor was effective and up until October 27, 2022. The table in the center includes odor intensities identified after the order was granted and until November 17th. The district observed that faint, distinct, strong, and very strong odor for classifications went down somewhat by the 17th, but nuisance odors were still being documented. Currently, the district has conducted 11 new odor surveys and found that there is a further reduction in odor intensities being found at these 2 locations, but nuisance odors still persisted before the ORS began operating on December 2nd. And the district documented 6 additional days of nuisance odors since the last board update. Slide 11, please. Another way to compare the most recent odor results is to look at the odor surveys that have been conducted before the ORS began operating from November 17th until December 1st, and after the ORS began operating on December 2nd. Notably, the table on the left, which shows recent odor intensity levels before the ORS began operating, indicate that there have been no recent odor survey findings of strong or very strong odor levels, but there was still a large percentage, over 57%, of odors being classified as distinct odors. The table on the right shows the odor intensities from only the 4 odor surveys conducted after the ORS began operating on December 2nd. All of the odors being identified after ORS operation have been either faint, very faint, or not detected. Importantly, the odor levels detected nearest to residential homes have been mostly rated as having no odor or very faint odor. The highest odor level observed near residential homes by district staff has been classified as faint and has been detected at the faint odor level only 1 time so far. Slide 12, please. Overall, the nuisance odors were still frequently present before the ORS began operating, with 6 dates of new odor nuisance being documented. But in the 4 odor surveys conducted after the ORS has been operating, the district has identified a noticeable reduction in odor intensity. The district will continue to conduct investigations and odor surveys to evaluate the effect on the community over a longer period of time and continue to ensure New Leaf's compliance with the stipulated abatement order and ATC conditions moving forward. The district will continue to work with New Leaf, and we will be conducting our own district engineering evaluation of the ORS shortly. The district will also continue monitoring and evaluating the community for odors and continue to evaluate the effectiveness of the ORS, and will act quickly to identify and address odor issues if they arise. The district expects to have an improved understanding of the effectiveness of the ORS with more time to conduct odor surveys to get a better sense of the odor reduction being achieved. The district will report these findings to the hearing board at the January 26, 2023 hearing board update meeting and include any recommendations to the board at that time, if needed. Last slide, please. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for your attention, and please feel free to ask any questions.
Before we actually go to the petitioner, or actually in this case, New Leaf, it's backwards, because we're looking still at the stipulated, abatement order. Is the ATC effective as of the 2nd of December or the 5th of December? Because installation was the 2nd.
They submitted the construction completion form on December 2nd to the district,
Okay.
identifying that it had been installed.
And then, it indicates, I know that the ATC and the stipulated abatement order would both be in effect. Is that true? Because I think, that slide 11 said, that ITC would monitor adherence to both stipulated abatement order and the ATC?
Yes.
Okay. And certainly, I could definitely see, a reduction. This is a very good, the aspect, not only for new leaf, but also, for the neighbors, per se. So that's really very good. And thank you for, I think, including slide number 10, because I was already dissecting slide number 9 on my end with all the notes that I'm taking. So thank you. Good. So just before we actually proceed, with new leaves, rather, are there any questions or comments from the members of the board? No, not yet.
I'm just really happy to hear that the ORS has already been installed. Just my expectations today were that, because remember the stipulated abatement order specified it had to be installed by 5 p.m. tomorrow, the 10th. So I was hoping to hear that it wasn't delayed, and now to hear that it's already been installed and that the trends are, it's trending in the right direction. We're seeing reduced odor surveys. We're seeing no complaints since the ORS has been in operation. Only one more complaint since the last time we met, and that was before the ORS was in operation. I couldn't be more pleased as a hearing board member to hear the good reports coming from the district. So anyway, so that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I agree with you. Vice Chair Slake, this is definitely a success and a perfect example of collaboration through and through. That's so. And I also want to highlight certainly the members of the public, the community, that unapologetically and unafraid, came here to definitely voice, their concerns. That was fantastic, So, but I would be remiss, I believe, that we have, the new lead representative, the CEO, I believe, Madam, that if you would like to Kate. So thank you so very much. You see definitely that, and Mr. White, by the way, we're really very pleased. Would you like to address the board and the public at large at this point?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for meeting again. I just want to thank Ms. Mahoney and the entire district for working with us so diligently to get this done. And I echo your comments about the community. If the community hadn't told us about this, they would still be dealing with a smell that was unpleasant for them. And so we do appreciate the collaboration for everyone involved, and we are really happy to be able to get this done ahead of schedule. I really commend my team for that, and everyone here for supporting us and allowing us to continue to do that. On that note, I'm going to hand it over to Chris so he can walk through the aspects of the system and some of our ongoing thoughts about what we continue to do to be a good steward of the neighborhood and the environment.
Thank you, Ms. Kay. Mr. White.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Board members, just for the record, I'm Chris White, the Chief Operating Officer for New Leaf Biofuel. I have a small number of slides that we can go through very quickly if the board would give me the permission to.
Could we, before you actually proceed with your presentation, however, I would like to accept those and make it part of our file. Okay, so I would like definitely to move to accept your presentation today. As Exhibit B. Do we have a second? Do we have a second to accept that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Spencer. Mia, could you please call the roll?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Member Gonzalez,
Aye.
Member Powers,
Aye.
Member Spencer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schlick,
Aye.
Chair Rodriguez.
Aye.
Madam Chair, that motion passes with all members present voting aye and accepting petitioner's presentation as Exhibit B.
Thank you so very much. Now, Mr. White, please proceed.
Thank you. Could you put my first slide up, please? Next slide, thanks. So as I mentioned at the last hearing, we were ready for the fan on November 17th. We did use the intervening time to expand the dimensions of our carbon vessels. And that was partly, I guess, to take advantage of the opportunity to have more carbon, but also the convenience that the way the carbon's delivered, we didn't end up with some left over at the end of every change out. We received the fan on November 30th. We got it installed on the 1st of December. And on the 2nd of December, we were just making sure that everything was right electrically, that the fan motor was performing as expected, that the electric starter was working to specification and so on. And then we sent the construction complete notice to APCD to begin operations, and the system has been switched on since that time and not stopped. Next slide, please. So just as a reminder, this is how the system is set up. On the left-hand side, you'll see that we have air inlets at each side of the building where those dotted blue marks are, and they draw air in. It's drawn through the intermediate wall between the warehouse storage area and the processing area, and then into the carbon filter system on the right. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Sorry, yeah, we might have to click through here. So this is just, and I apologize to Mary, you might not have had all the very latest photos. So this is just exactly as it looked yesterday afternoon, with everything connected and in its proper place. You'll notice that this at the top, there's another ring on the carbon vessels, which is the increase in volume. And I've just put that white arrow there, so it gives a bit of an idea of scale. Those carbon vessels are 11 feet tall, so it is a reasonable sized piece of equipment. And you see the orange arrows show the air being pulled out into the collection duct at the top on the left-hand side there, through the pre-filter, which is paper, just like fairly much like a normal air conditioning filter, and then into the carbon vessels. And through into the fan and out. The large silver thing on top of the fan is a muffler so that we don't get noise being pumped up into the air from the fan. For the differential pressure that we monitor on the carbon vessels, we have a sensor that connects to the inlet side and just at the top on the ducting. And the problem we've encountered there with the meter is that because we have a higher column of carbon than perhaps normal, the pressure drop is higher than the range of the meter. So the meters, we can't get a baseline to monitor against. So we will have that in place tomorrow. If we cannot get the permanent meters to work, we will have a portable meter that can measure it, and we'll make that measurement daily until we have the appropriate permanent metering working properly. The other meter that was mentioned, I will explain a little bit later on. Next slide, please. So we turn the system on, we have sort of tried different damper settings and making sure that all the airflow louvers are working properly over last weekend. What we've found is that the fan doesn't really mind whether the damper's fully open or partly closed, so we are running with it fully open at the moment. And on December the 5th, we did airflow testing. Next slide, please. So the airflow testing is done in two ways. We look at the airflows into the system and into the building when we open doors and things like that, and we just use an anemometer, which is just a little bladed fan that spins around in the airflow. And then the other system we use is in the ducting of the filter system itself. We use a pitot tube, and that just compares static pressure and pressure from the moving air and calculates the velocity of air. It's exactly the same device that aircraft use to calculate airspeed. Next slide, please. So our target for the system was 12,500 cubic feet per minute. We have 3 2 by 4 foot inlets, so a total of 24 square feet going into the system from the building. And so we took the anemometer and ran it across the face of all those inlets. And they don't all perfectly run at the same velocity because it's very hard to across a long duct to make sure that everything has exactly the same inlet pressure. But what we found was 495 to 535 feet per minute velocity into those inlets. And to get 12,500 CFM, we needed an average of 521 feet per minute. So we were satisfied that the amount of air being drawn out of the building and into the filter system is at the design level. And to just see what would happen when we open the main man door that we use to access the building, we opened it, left it wide open, and we got 280 feet per minute going into the building, even with that wide open. And then we measured, just to do a double check, we measured the airflow into the base of the carbon filters, and that was measured at 12,800 cubic feet per minute using the pitot tube. So we were pretty confident that the system's performing in an airflow sense at expectation. Next slide, please. The other thing we added to the system is a duct feeding into the collection ducting that we haven't fully commissioned yet, and that is to capture displaced air when we're doing anything with trucks. We use vacuum trucks that blow out and suck in, and to capture the air that's produced by those activities, we put this additional duct in. Once we've confirmed airflows, we will put a little collection fan on a flexible duct at the end of that pipe, and we'll use it to capture any of that air as well and put it through the carbon system, so that being a potential sort of source of odor is also eliminated. Next slide, please. I've already explained the baseline pressure drop issue, and I hope that we will have that in this week. And the building differential pressure in a large building, to get an accurate differential pressure across a wall, it's a very low, small amount. Has to be done in a way that every time a person walks past, or every time the door's opened, it doesn't generate a false reading. The instrument that was provided to us wasn't sensitive enough to do that, and so we've got a different type of instrument that will be like a switch, so that if we are violating the condition in the authority to construct, it will provide initially a signal light and eventually a record to our permanent data logging system that has happened. And that should also be installed this week. Next slide, please. So our plan is to run this odor control system continuously, and even when we're not actively processing, obviously, unless we can clean out the whole place and make sure that there's no residual odor, we will still want to be running it at all times. The system is configured so that when we replace the carbon, we can run the system through one filter while we replace the carbon in the other, so that there's no interruption in processing of air from the building. And we will have a fan motor spare on site and any other spares we need for the fan to make sure that if we do have a problem with that, it can be resolved very quickly without a delay. Next slide. What we are also planning, and these are not confirmed yet, they're subject to final planning approvals and so on. We have for some time been pursuing permission to build a pipeline under the road between the south plant and the north plant. That would eliminate a lot of these truck loading events and transfer trucking between south and north. So it would be a significant number of truck movements and a significant number of air from truck incidents that would be eliminated by that. And we're hoping to have that in place during 2023 in the first half. And the second part is also subject to approval and permitting, but we do have a plan to alter the processing inside the south plant. It was actually shown on some of the drawings you've seen earlier in that form. And that would allow us to fully enclose all our processing at south. So the amount of odor generated inside the building would be less, and all of the water transfer would be via the pipeline directly to the other side for treatment without any need to go into a truck or have any intermediate exposure where odor might be released. And I think that is my final slide. Next, yes. So any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. White. I mean, to you and the staff of New Leaf, thank you so very much. And definitely with you as well, Ms. Kate. I'm going to speak, as Bill Murray Rodriguez Figueroa right now. I definitely did not doubt, the course that you were taking. I mean, from the very first presentation, to be honest with you. However, I mean, there was a little doubt, in the back of my mind based on issues with supply chain and that we still currently, face. I actually have to say that this is my neighborhood, so thank you so very much, for addressing this. I mean, there has been, in my view, a couple of hiccups, but I don't think, that the aspiration and the commitment that you have with regards to running your business rightfully was ever there. I never doubted that, So I think, we're definitely going into the right, a course, and I thank you for your collaboration. Because it has been with the community, with definitely the APCD and with us as well. So I just wanted to actually say that. I think, we're getting where we need to be. So thank you. Any other comments from the members of the board?
I appreciate the briefing. That's my only comment.
Thank you, Bill. Any other comments? Thank you. So, well, if that is the case, I think, that I guess, we just need to a motion for approval on these public comments.
I think we have public comment first. We'd like to hear.
That is correct. So I'm going on through my list here. The members right. So I believe that we actually have one public comment. Mia, is that correct?
Madam Chair, we have 2 hands raised and 1 registered speaker. As a reminder to members of the public wishing to address the board today, you will be called, we will be calling speakers by name or the last 4 digits of your phone number. You will hear a notification that your call has been unmuted. At that time, you will need to press *6 to unmute your phone. Each caller will be asked to state their full name for the audio record. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board today. Please self-regulate your time. I will ask that you conclude your comments when your time has ended. I would remind the speakers to mute their live stream before they begin speaking. Our first caller will be caller ending in phone number 2650. 2650. Please press *6 to unmute your phone.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for having me. My name is Alec McKenzie. This is also my neighborhood also as of the last 40 years anyway. I didn't know that the equipment had been installed. Chris has done a wonderful job keeping me informed over the past several months. So thanks for that, Chris. Good guy. So yes, the last few days, I haven't smelled much of anything. I do want to remind everybody that before this problem was addressed, it really was revolting. I couldn't use my brand new $25,000 patio or have friends over for a barbecue because it was that bad. I've had a couple of my tenants next door to me move out because of the smell. So it was really bad. And I do appreciate New Leaf's, willingness to actually get involved and get it done, and also pollution control's willingness to enforce compliance. So thanks to everybody. It looks like we're going to have an actually a happy ending here. And I guess that's all I wanted to say. Just so happy. I didn't know that the equipment was installed. So thanks for that. And while I was going to maybe complain a lot, now that I know the system's in place and that New Leaf has always been so willing to, try and work with the neighborhood here, that's a good thing. I'm about done, but I would like to say, if New Leaf could get their trucks to go down Main Street, which is where all these big diesel trucks are supposed to go, rather than Boston Avenue where I live, which is half a block from them, that would be a good thing. All these 10th Avenue terminal trucks, they just go where they want. They're supposed to go down Harbor Drive to Main Street and out to the freeway that way. So if we can get them off Boston, that would be a really good thing. But that's all I have. Thank you so much. Chris, good to hear you give your presentation. And thanks for listening to me. And it looks like we're going to have a wonderful resolution to this smelly problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie.
Madam Chair, we have 2 additional hands raised at this time. Our first speaker, I would like to call Roberto Corral. Roberto Corral, you will have 2 minutes to address the board. Please self-regulate your time. I will ask that you conclude your comments when your time has ended. Roberto Corral. Madam Chair, we will return to him at the conclusion. Our next speaker will be Nicholas Paul. Nicholas Paul, you will have 2 minutes to address the board. Please self-regulate your time. I will ask that you conclude your comments when your time has ended.
Good morning, hearing board staff. My name is Nicolas Paul. I am the air quality advocate at EHC. I'm going to keep my comment really short here. I just wanted to express our appreciation to APCD staff that has dedicated a lot of time and effort to documenting this issue and getting us to this point where we're at here. I also want to elevate all the work that community members have put into this. Really, they've been the driving force in getting movement on this issue that's been impacting their quality of life for several years now. And so we're hopeful. This is a really big step in improving the quality of life of folks there in Barrio Logan. But our work isn't done. We're going to continue to monitor and make sure that the system is working, and look forward to the update meetings that we are going to have in January and February and March of next year. So just wanted to express that. And again, thank you all so much for the work that's been put into this over the last several months. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. Shall we go back to Mr. Corral?
I will now call Roberto Corral. Roberto Corral, you will have 2 minutes to address the hearing board today. Please self-regulate your time, and I will ask that you conclude your comments when your time has ended.
Thank you.
Will you please state your name, your full name for the audio record?
Sí, soy Roberto Corral. Yes.
Mr. Corral, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll have to translate for my husband. We're both here.
Ma'am, we have, I'm sorry, ma'am, we have translators. Will you please allow Mr. Corral to speak on his own behalf?
All right. Que hables en español.
Thank you.
Before Mr. Corral comes on board, would you like to repeat the instructions for the translation?
Pardon?
That is for the clerk of the board, ma'am.
Mr. Corral, you will have 2 minutes to address the board.
Sí, mi señora es la que va a hablar porque ella puede hablar en inglés, ella puede explicarle mejor, y ella vive aquí también, y ella también le interesa.
Roberto, un momentito, por favor. Vamos a tener servicios de traducción oficial y provistos por el condado de San Diego. ¿Okay?
Correcto.
Señora, le apreciamos que su señora esté con nosotros, pero la traducción tiene que ser hecha por el agente del staff, tú sabes, de los empleados del condado, ¿ok?
Ok.
Sí,
okay.
Sí, gracias, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Mia.
Ya.
Sí, lo que pasa es que estamos aquí exponiendo porque vemos que hemos estado leyendo el reporte y ponen muchas mentiras de que a nosotros nos pidieron la opinión de cómo están los olores. En la vida vivimos cruzando la calle, en la vida nos han venido a preguntar si hemos estado, si estamos oliendo, si estamos molestos por el olor. Nunca nos han comentado nada, al contrario, es ya 3 años insoportable el olor. Nuestros nietos y nuestras hijas ya no quieren venirnos a ver porque siempre que vienen salen asqueados del olor. Ahorita, por ejemplo, no está oliendo, yo sé que no está oliendo, pero es que porque desde ayer dejaron de trabajar porque sabían que hoy iba a haber esta entrevista y para que le iban a preguntar que si está el olor y íbamos a decir que no, pero es porque no están trabajando. ¿Por qué? Porque sabían que iba a pasar esto de que iba a haber la entrevista en Zoom y es imposible. Tenemos días que no podemos ni tenemos que irnos de aquí porque es imposible soportar el olor. No se ve que hagan hecho nada al respecto. Los camiones, aquí enfrente tengo fotografía de camiones llenos de aceite apestoso, parados aquí en la calle esperando a descargar. Es imposible estar aguantando. No porque echen químicos y porque el oxígeno que necesitamos lo contamina con lo que quieren limpiar el aire y no es la solución, como dicen ellos, ni como dicen las mentiras que están diciendo que no huele y que no molesta a la gente. Seguro que molesta y molesta mucho. Y no es oxígeno lo que estamos respirando, no es un buen clima, no es un ambiente, un aire apropiado ni agradable. Es muy desagradable. Y la condición de nosotros, pues ya somos personas mayores y nos molesta mucho que no pongan nada de su parte, al contrario, no han hecho nada por resolver el problema. Gracias por escucharnos y la opinión de mi señora, si les interesa, también se les puedo pasar para que dé su opinión.
¿Cómo?
¿Qué pasó, señorita? No escuché.
Señor Corral, si su esposa desea dar comentarios sobre petición 4527, y puede comenzar con su nombre completa.
Está
Correcto.
bien. Muchas gracias por darme la oportunidad. Les voy a explicar.
Tu nombre completo.
Mi nombre completo es María Fernanda Corral. Hemos vivido aquí durante 7 años. Los 3 últimos años fueron terribles. Mi esposo se desespera porque aparte de que cuenta con un problema de salud, se desespera mucho. Discúlpenos, pero yo sí les voy a decir que esos 3 años ya nadie nos los borra. Entiendo, yo sí entendí que están haciendo algo y eso nos da a mí me da mucha alegría y hablo a nombre de todos los vecinos. Si verdaderamente están haciendo algo, pues les damos las gracias. Pero ya nunca más queremos volver a vivir respirando tóxico, no es oxígeno lo que respiramos, comida podrida, huele a animal muerto, y si es que están haciendo algo y no vuelve a pasar, una vez más, gracias a todos.
Esperemos que siga.
No, ya no me contestaron.
Bien.
Madam Chair, may I address the public?
Yeah, you certainly you can.
I really appreciate those who have taken time today and waited through a previous petition in order to speak about the update today. I hear you, Maria. I hear you, Roberto. You've been living there for 7 years. You say 3 years has been horrible. We are really trying, and we are, I want you to know that according to the previous testimony, the previous meetings, the company has been spending over $200,000 to try to fix the problem. And from the county's district report, it looked like the odor is still there. I hear you. The odor is still there. But we're hopeful that since the odors are trending from before they operate this new system that they put in the last week, it was in the very, very strong, horrible smell. Now it's more faint or very faint or no odor. We're hoping with continued time, it's going to stay in that better trend. So that's what we're hoping for. And we're glad that you came to speak.
Thank you, Commissioner Slick. This is not for the translators. I'm going to be addressing, those members of the public in Spanish, so that you can actually do that as well. Señor y señor Corral, muchísimas gracias por venir a dar su testimonio y compartir sus experiencias con nosotros. Es lamentable que ustedes han tenido una condición que es de una calidad inferior de calidad del aire en los últimos 3 años. New Leaf nos ha dado una promesa y ha seguido unos pasos para entonces eliminar ese tipo de olor que está impactante para su salud, señor Corral, y definitivamente para el bienestar de vida. Y cualquier vecindario y cualquier persona del público está bienvenido en cualquier momento para hacer su voz y su posición conocida para nosotros. Así que siempre serán bienvenidos. Tenemos otras reuniones, otras juntas en enero, febrero y marzo. Así que monitoreen la calidad de los controles que ha establecido New Leaf y vengan. Están invitados para venir otra vez a decirnos cómo va a ser el progreso de esto. Pero New Leaf, como dijo la Vice Schlick, ha tenido unos pasos y ha trabajado en colaboración con el APCD para entonces eliminar ese tipo de olor del que ustedes han sido impactados. Y nosotros tenemos esperanza. Así que todos nosotros, en colaboración, la comunidad de la APCD, esta junta, tú sabes, de calidad ambiental, con enfoque hacia la calidad del aire, vamos a trabajar juntos para entonces asegurarnos de que todos los vecindarios de San Diego se trate de una manera equivalente y con equivalencia. Esa es nuestra posición entonces aquí. Mr. McKenzie, I mean, this now, to you, thank you so very much, as I mentioned, before. And please, you are invited, like everybody else, to participate. This is a public forum as well. And we will be monitoring, through the March, the progress that has been done, by New Leaf. So New Leaf, continue, doing the good job. Okay, continue definitely collaborating with all of us. Again, this is community and APCD and hearing board at large to ensure that every single neighborhood in San Diego is treated, with equity, and in an equivalent fashion. So, thank you so very much. Well, I believe though that we actually would have a motion at this point in time. To accept, this update to. Hold on here. Let me actually go back. To the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District, County of San Diego abatement order against respondent New Leaf biofuel update. So I have a motion to accept, the information provided.
Madam Chair, if I may interject, Jennifer Case from New Leaf has her hand raised.
Okay, thank you so very much for monitoring that. I cannot actually see this. Actually, not changing for me. Oh, there you go, Ms. Kate. Please go ahead.
Hi, I just have a quick question. I know you guys have interpretation on your end so that you're able to hear the public comment, but I don't know how to access that. If it's easy for me to somehow find the transcript, I would, personally love to know what our neighbors are still experiencing. We only get better by hearing, what our neighbors need. So, if there's a way you can send me the transcript of the Spanish speakers, I would really appreciate it.
I will take that, as part of the, the administrative items, because we actually haven't closed this, that case. So, again, there's a motion on the floor. That's so, I guess I'm moving on to accept, this update. So I get a second. Vice Chair Schlick, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Madam Chair, just to clarify the motion, I have a first from Chair Rodriguez, a second from Vice Chair Schlick.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Member Gonzalez? Member Gonzalez?
Aye.
Member Powers?
Aye.
Member Spencer?
Aye.
Vice Chair Schlick?
Aye.
Chair Rodriguez?
Aye.
Madam Chair, that item passes with all members present voting aye, and I would like to just provide a little clarity on the translation services. There is a button at the bottom of the Zoom screen that is labeled interpretation, and you can select either the English or the Spanish channel, which will translate in real time. And once the meeting has concluded, all translation will be provided as well via the YouTube link that's available on the APCD YouTube channel for the hearing board as well.
Thank you so very much. Oh, does that mean that they actually have to hear me in both Spanish and English? Oh my gosh. Okay. We actually have one more activity before we conclude today's business. And I would like to introduce the board's newest alternate engineer member to the board, Steve Engelman. Steve, are you still with us? You're shuttering in today's presentation, and I know that it has been lengthy.
I'm here.
Excellent. So welcome so very much. I actually have to say that I know that Bill Powers, myself, and Steve, have known each other for many, many, many years. Okay, and I am so glad, that you are the alternate, engineer. And I would like, to actually provide you an opportunity to address the board, and the members. Anything that you want to say about yourself?
Thank you. I'll say that I'm honored to be on this board, and I look forward to serving the public interest.
Thank you so very much. I mean, and definitely he brings us, we know, an engineering background, I mean, as well. And he's the first appointment, you know, I mean, here to the board, and it will be for 3 years. Thanks again, Steve. Looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Perfect. I believe that now that, well, hold it here before I close. Anything that the board members would like to say to Steve?
Welcome.
There you go.
Welcome. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Welcome, Steve.
I know.
Thank you all.
Well, I believe that, you know, I mean, that concludes our business today. Thank you, everybody, for providing your presentations and certainly your commitment, I mean, to our quality, I mean, for the residents of San Diego County. Regardless of where we live, you know, I mean, we definitely want to and work for, I mean, the good air quality better every single day. So our next meeting of the APCD hearing board will take place on January 12th at 9 o'clock. And I know that this is the last meeting of this year. I actually have to say that I wish all of you a wonderful and safe holiday. Bye now.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Happy
Thank you.
holidays.
Happy holidays. See you all in the new year.
Yeah. Bye-bye now.